Politicians fighting. How do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome everyone to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being here. We're here on WYSM Live today. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. Be until 1 o'clock. But of course, shout out down the line to our friends listening a little bit later over on WACK out in New York and WENY The Patriot down in the Southern Tier. And our friends who are listening live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on both the A Free Solution page and the Kevin Wilson page on Facebook. Thanks for being here, folks. And make sure you leave your comments, participate in the discussion today. Got a couple interesting topics going on. I'm going to talk about Trump. I'm going to talk about the Nashville stuff. Some interesting rumors that are building up around that. And then I'm going to talk about, I put the headline on the online stream, do we care if landlords are, well, they're getting a raw deal. Do we care if they're getting a raw deal? Why should we care about landlords? Who cares? Whatever, right? All right, we'll talk about that second half of the show, though. First, I want to talk about the stimulus bill and the omnibus bill, this big budget bill. We were talking last Wednesday, last time I was on, we were talking about President Trump rightfully calling out the massive, outrageous, ridiculous amount of pork that is in the regular spending bill. I mean, there's a stimulus bill, there's a spending bill. Either way, either bill, we're spending obscene amounts of money on things like, people keep bringing up the Pakistan gender studies thing. People keep bringing up, like, all the money that we're giving out to other countries right now when the American people are suffering. Not to mention the wasteful amounts of money given to sometimes silly, funding requests for research, and just the regular everyday waste that we give to other federal agencies, money that we absolutely could cut, return to the American people, keep it in our pocket in the first place. I know, what a concept, right? Billions of dollars. We continue to build up more and more debt. Now, when we were talking about this on Wednesday, we were talking about whether or not President Trump was going to veto the bill. And, I was very careful not to say that he was going to veto it. And if I did, I would correct myself right away. Because he never said he was going to veto the bill. He just complained about it. He does what he always does. He said, $600 isn't enough. Increase to $2,000. Here's all this wasteful spending. Here's the money going to Egypt and to Pakistan and to all these other countries. Here's this, he again, and I gave him credit for that. I gave President Trump a good job calling that out. Okay, now do something about it. What did President Trump do? He signed the bill anyway. He signed it anyway. And he's trying to make this seem like, he sure showed them. He called the swamp out on wasting all this money, giving it away to foreign governments, and not giving that money to the American people who need it. He sent a strong message. And I'll read what he said in the statement. I mean, the gall of this. I will sign the omnibus and COVID package with a strong message that makes clear to Congress that wasteful items need to be removed, Trump said in a statement upon signing the legislation. I will send back to Congress a red line version, item by item, accompanied by the formal rescission request to Congress, insisting that those funds be removed from this bill. Guys, I hate to break it to you, but that doesn't mean squat. Doesn't mean a darn thing. The bill passed. He signed it. His only move was to veto it or to not sign it. Or to sign it, which he did. If you want to really oppose this, he could have just done either of those two things. Veto it or not sign it. What did he do, though? He signed the bill. He's continuing to complain about stuff that's in the bill, but he signed it. He is part of it now. He is participating in the absolute failure of our representative government to have a legislative process that brings into account the views of the entire body of Congress and the views of the American people and the focus on getting people the relief that they need while cutting the ridiculous spending taking place in this omnibus process, this budget process that goes on year after year after year. President Trump, who kept promising the Republican Party and the American people before he was elected to cut spending, to say he said he was going to take care of the debt. What has happened? We've increased it by massive amounts, by absolutely massive amounts over the last 4 years. He has done nothing. What frustrates me about this is I know many of you listening want to be fans of President Trump. You like what he says, but you need to. It doesn't even matter now. He's not going to be president in a month. It's not going to. It's not going to happen. It's always hot air. It's always empty. It kills me. This doesn't mean anything. Him saying that Congress should take it back. You know what? You know what the Democratic leaders in Congress are doing in response to him redlining the bill? Nothing. They are not doing a darn thing. They're going to go home after trying to pass the $2,000 increase in the relief to Americans. That's the only compromise we ever get is that Congress and the presidency compromises to spend more of your money, of our money, a money that we don't even have yet because it's all going into debt. This is all we ever get. The compromise is always, oh, guess we'll spend some more. Guess we'll go more into debt. What's the matter at this point? Got to help the American people. Okay. And it's probably not going to happen. They're probably not even going to get to $2,000. It's going to get to $600 per person, and then that's going to be it. Fine, we can debate the merits of that. I'm sick with everything else in these bills. I'm willing to have a reasonable debate on how much money should people get. Fine. Some people are really hurting. I think that there should be some means testing on this. I said that last week too. But no, that's the only compromise we might get is they're not going to pull any of that stuff out. Nothing. It is all hot air every single time. And listeners, this is what I'm asking you. How many times does Trump have to do this over and over and over again until you stop defending him? I stopped doing it a while ago because every time he says something, every time I think that there's something nice he's going to do to advance liberty, to exercise fiscal responsibility, it's all just a means to continue the grift, to get people excited. This is just a way of fooling everyone. Why do you still defend this guy? There are better people out there. Better people who actually stand up for American values. Who try to make sure that we have responsible government. I don't know. I'm done with this whole thing. I'm done with everything President Trump has done. And maybe I'll talk about, after the break too, some of the stuff he's doing with the pardons as well. Because I would love to see President Trump use his pardon power for good. But who's he pardon? He pardons people like Chris Collins. Why on earth does Chris Collins deserve a pardon? He's corrupt. He was convicted. He was going to serve a small jail time for insider trading. Why is he getting a pardon? Well, because he was loyal to President Trump. That's it. That's all that's happening. No, the American people deserve better. The Republican Party deserves better. And honestly, I've talked about this. I'm not a Republican anymore. I used to be. I got sick of the party. I'm frustrated with the party. I have many friends there, many of whom are trying to do the right thing. And the sooner the Republican Party can get back to conservative and libertarian principles, something rooted in serving the American people rather than the cult of one man, I think the better off both the Republican Party will be and the American people will be. Because we do need someone to fight the Democrats, who are, some of them are well-meaning, but a lot of them have these ridiculous ideas that are not rooted in financial reality and social reality. A lot of them are disconnected from what our country needs to survive. So I want a strong Republican Party, and I think the sooner we can move on from President Trump, the better. All right, thanks again for joining us on A Free Solution. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
When you've been seriously injured in a car crash, you need a lawyer who knows how to beat the big insurance companies. Call me and I'll take them on so you can focus on your health and family.
Car crash, call Salino. Salino, call Salino. 888-2020.
Main Street, Rochester.
Rochester's only NCAA Division II athletic scholarship program wants you. Our Life in the Balance approach to athletics will provide you with an opportunity to succeed in the classroom and in your sport while allowing you the time to be involved with your personal interests and even study abroad. The Redhawks compete in the East Coast Conference, and their student athletes excel in the classroom and on the playing field. If you're ready for the challenge of high-level athletics while earning a college degree that will prepare you for the future, visit robertsredhawks.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. Thanks so much for joining us. Getting more participate in the conversation, give us a call 585-346-3000. 585-346-3000. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. You know, I was talking about the omnibus bill, the big budget bill / COVID relief package that President Trump made a bunch of noise about, but signed into law anyway. As usual, here's full of hot air. I'm sick of the grift. I'm sick of him stringing my friends along, people who I know are passionate about limited government, about conservative principles, you know, people who want to do the right thing. You keep getting fooled by this guy. Guys, stop. It's over. Time to elevate new leaders, particularly ones at the grassroots level, who stand for these principles. And where I agree with you, you know, I'll call you out. In fact, I'll tell you to come on the show. I'd love to talk about people doing good work at the local level. Sounds like we do got a call, though. Lori from Rochester. What's on your mind?
Yes, hi. Hi. I just want to say I don't think Trump had a choice but to sign the bill because of the unemployment, and they're going to shut the government down. I think he really didn't have a choice. He didn't want to, and that's all I want to say.
All right. Well, thanks, Lori. I mean, I think he did have a choice. He always had a choice. He could have done that. He could have, as soon as he got the final version of the bill, he could have vetoed it and said, take all the rest of the stuff out and give me a bill that just focuses on the unemployment, the basic government functions, things like that. He always had a choice. President Trump has vetoed fewer bills than any president who served out a full term since the 19th century. He has given whatever Congress has given him, which is usually just a handful of party leaders, Nancy Pelosi and others, who are packing whatever pork they can into these bills. And for the most part, he's just signed off on them. And at this point, to be frank, he's a lame duck president. If he's going to make a bold move, now's the time to do it. Congress still has until they could meet today and send back an updated version of the bill. President Trump chose not to. There's no election consequences anymore. And he could have done this. And Eric Cooper asks, can the president line item veto? No, I don't believe so. At the federal level, I don't think line item veto is a thing that he can do at this point. Although I think it's a power worth something that we maybe should amend the Constitution to allow for line item veto. And for those who don't know what that is, it's basically where Congress sends a bill to the president that is passed by both the House and the Senate, and the president says, I don't like this part of the bill. So you could say, President Trump should say, I veto just the gender studies program for Pakistan. I veto just that thing. And the rest of the bill would pass, but just that thing now needs a 2/3 override in order to be enacted into law or budget. And so that's something that constitutional scholars will talk about, but it's not really a power that I think exists now. And if I'm totally wrong on this, I'm pretty sure I'm right, but if I'm totally wrong on this, give me a call and correct me. So before I spread too much misinformation, but last I understood, you can't do it. It's all or nothing. I think certain states have line item vetoes where a governor can line item veto just like one or two things. But on the federal level, as I understand it, it's all or nothing. So if you think that we should have line item veto, make sure you talk to your member of Congress about that. But I feel like it's one of those things that is still advantageous to the party to do. And I think we're going in the opposite direction on this. If you look at some of the criticisms that Congressman Amash has had for the congressional process, Tulsi Gabbard, Thomas Massey, and others, the way everything's moving is not even the members on the House floor have the ability to raise amendments, debate the process, discuss whether or not individual items should be included. It's just an up or down vote. And remember that this bill, which they've been putting together, and by they I mean basically Nancy Pelosi, a couple party leaders in the House, Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, they've been putting this together for months. But your average member, most members, are not participating fully in that process like what used to happen. It's up or down. And you had this 5,500 page bill that they waived the rule to require at least 72 hours before voting on it, and they just got an up or down vote. That's it. Yes to the whole thing, no to the whole thing. And I think I saw, it might have been Thomas Massey or another Republican who said they understand, the risk of voting for it or voting against it because it would look like they're voting against providing additional unemployment benefits or COVID relief checks to the American people. And I get that. I get that's political just like our caller who called in, and I'll acknowledge that is a tough decision. But if you are serious about wanting to change the toxic, swampy culture in Washington, if you're going to make all this bluster about, draining the swamp, then my goodness, every once in a while you need to make a bold choice, make a risk and say, no, we are going to do this right. We are going to do this right. We're not going to send all that money overseas. We're not going to send all this money to well-connected corporations. We're not going to waste this money on federal agencies that don't even need to exist. No, we're going to do this right. We're going to pass a clean bill that focuses on direct relief or whatever, whatever it needs to be. Getting people back to work, focusing on what's actually going to get people past the pandemic. Like, again, I think you can make a pretty good argument for giving states money, not open-ended money, but money for fighting the pandemic, to buy PPE, to buy reagent supplies, to testing kits, things like that. Reagents, just the stuff that they use to determine whether or not someone has COVID. That stuff I think is legitimate. Making it easier for states to be able to fight this. Fine. Okay, like, I see the logic in that, at least. Let's move this away from ideology and talk about consequentialism. I see the logic in that. Pass a clean bill. You don't need to fund the whole swamp. But that's what happened here. That's what President Trump is doing. And again, I don't have to. Why not make an actual stand on this? He's got a month left in office. Why not try to do something good? Instead, that hasn't happened. Passed the bill. He's complained about it. Democrats in the House basically told him, and you can read the article I posted online in the comments, basically said, yep, we're not going to consider any of the rescissions that President Trump has recommended. That's solely a power of the House. Yep, that's where it is. So that's where we are. And again, the other thing I'd love to see President Trump do is, again, he's only got a few weeks left in office. We keep hearing rumors he's going to pardon Edward Snowden. It'd be great. And I think that guy revealed ways in which the NSA was violating our constitutional rights. And in fact, that same power was used against President Trump and his team. The FISA courts, if you remember way back when the Obama administration appeared to be spying on the Trump campaign. Great. Okay, so what has President Trump done about that? Well, he's continued to fund that agency. He's renewed their powers. He's renewed the Patriot Act. And he hasn't pardoned Edward Snowden. So what has he done about any of this stuff, other than occasionally complain about it? Words are cheap. I can sit here and complain about stuff. I'm not in a position to change that. President Trump actually has power. He can actually do something about this. He could pardon Edward Snowden. He could pardon Ross Ulbricht, who founded the Silk Road. He could do these things if he cares. There's rumors, again, that he's going to pardon these people, but who is he pardoning instead? Chris Collins? Why does that guy deserve a pardon? It pardons his, what's his name? The other Kushner, Jared Kushner's dad. Y'all, if you want to hear an interesting story about, like, someone getting arrested, it's wild. This guy sounds like an absolute dirtbag. Actually disgusted Chris Christie, who was an AG in New Jersey, and he's like, I'm from Jersey, and this disgusted me. It was that kind of level. That's the guy he chooses to pardon. And he has pardoned, to President Trump's credit, a handful of nonviolent drug offenders. Great. Cool. Do more. Could have pardoned Assange, too. Julian Assange, who revealed, among other things, the duplicity of the Democratic Party in the election of Hillary Clinton. Yeah. Pardon him. And we're getting a couple comments from Will Phillips. Says, Kevin, with a month left, why not try something good? Trump, why not start now? I agree. And yeah, truth should always be legal. Will, I absolutely agree with all your comments. Thank you so much for chiming in. And if any of you want to chime in, of course, you can comment online anywhere or give us a call. 585-346-3000.
because you're not sheep. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. We start today with a few rain showers. Winds pick up this morning and also this afternoon with gusts around 50 miles per hour. We look at winds out of the southwest, then tonight into tomorrow, breezy conditions at times. We'll start off Tuesday morning with a few lake effect snow showers. A nice coating is possible. Then by the afternoon hours, we dry out, much cooler temperatures in the 30s. This is Samantha LaRocca for WYSL.
Now is a great time to shop at Victor Chevrolet. Come see how easy it is to do business with us. Winter driving is safe and fun when you lease the 2020 Equinox front-wheel drive LS. Just $129 a month for 36 months. Or buy it for just $24,990. Or enjoy the versatility of a tough and roomy 2021 Silverado LST. Lease for only $229 a month for 36 months. Or buy it for just $43,990. Lease a 2020 Chevy Trax LS front-wheel drive for just $89 a month for 36 months. For Equinox, Trax, or Trailblazer, must have current lease and household. 10,000 miles per year. $2,500 cash or trade. First payment, tax, acquisition, and DMV fees are all due at signing for all leases. Would you prefer to buy? Save big when you buy a 2019 Trax LT all-wheel drive with convenience package, power drive seat, and keyless entry and start. MSRP $26,145. Buy it now for just $19,990. This winter, find new roads at Victor Chevrolet, Route 96 in Victor. Visit VictorChevrolet.com.
Hello, I'm Alan Ginsberg of the A.M. Ginsberg Advisory Group. Hope you're coping well with the changes we've all had to make in day-to-day living during these crazy times. So, now that you've done all your projects, cooked every new recipe you have, and made your YouTube videos, ask yourself, are your financial plans and investments working in today's world? Is your family secure if you die or become disabled? Are the wills you made 10 or 20 years ago still valid today? Now may be the time to evaluate where you are financially and review your estate planning as well. We're available for appointments by phone or Zoom meeting, or we can meet in my office with CDC compliant procedures. Please give us a call, 585-377-4720, or check out our website at amginsbergadvisorygroup.com.
Securities offered through Securities America Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Securities America Advisors Inc. AM Ginsberg Advisory Group and the Securities America companies are separate entities.
Imani, time for school, baby. Imani, time for school. Imani, it's time.
A different couch, a different floor, the backseat of a car. Over 2,000 Rochester school-aged children are homeless, but now there is hope. The Open Door Mission Cold Water House for moms and their children. opendoormission.com/doves.
Eyes in Rochester is a full-service ophthalmology office, and we specialize in general ophthalmology, taking care of people from childhood to adult and seniors. We do general eye exams. We specialize in cataract surgery, corneal surgery, and disease, as well as LASIK surgery. We also have a full-service optical shop and contact lens fitting service.
Visit Eyes on Rochester at 1157 Fairport Road.
With colder weather coming, know that Turnbull, your York certified comfort expert dealer, has the highest quality, most reliable York systems with the best warranty in the business. Install confidence this winter season with Turnbull Heating in York. 10-year parts and labor warranty, 0 interest up to 18 months, more than $300 in utility rebates, and 24/7 service by certified Turnbull technicians. Install confidence this season with Turnbull and York.
You'll be comfortable with the best. Turnbull Heating and Air.
Call 343-2005 in Avon 226-6180.
Flower City Collision in Henrietta is your hometown body shop. Flower City works with all major insurance companies, repairing your vehicle back to pre-accident condition. Finest craftsmanship using PPG products. Get it done right. Visit flowercitycollision.com.
At Tom Walls, we use only pure cane sugar in every batch of Tom Walls root beer, never corn syrup. I'm Riley. Let me cook you the best cheeseburger, crispiest fries, and serve you a Tom Walls frosted mug of root beer.
Tom Walls.
It's time to put your liberty into action. Come and listen to The Liberty Show here on WYSL Voice of Liberty on the first Saturday of the month at 7 p.m. This month we'll be interviewing Second Amendment activist Maj Touré. Hope you're able to tune in.
a free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And shout out again down the line, not only to our fans listening on WYSL, where you can give us a call, 585-346-3000 till 1 o'clock if you want to participate in this conversation, but also down the line over at WACK out in Newark and WENY The Patriot down in Southern Tier, and of course our friends who are listening and commenting online. You know, and again, thanks Eric for bringing up the line item veto thing, and Will for following up with not only the things about the pardons, but also more discussion about the line item veto. In case you guys are curious, I'll post a link to the last time. Well, there's two things that ended up happening in relation to the line item veto. The Line Item Veto Act of 1996, which was passed during the Clinton administration. Ronald Reagan was pushing for it way back in the 80s. Didn't end up going anywhere. He wanted to use it to cut, pork spending. Bill Clinton asked for that. Looks like it passed, but the Supreme Court declared line item vetoes unconstitutional in a 6-3 decision in Clinton v. versus City of New York. And basically, the court found the exercise of the line item veto is tantamount to a unilateral amendment or repeal by the executive of only parts of statutes authorizing federal spending, and therefore violated the presentment clause of the U.S. Constitution. So, that case made the line item veto illegal, unconstitutional, or at least it recognized the unconstitutionality of that type of thing. The Bush administration tried to do the same thing. They tried to make a slightly different line item veto act back in 2006. Didn't really go anywhere. 2009, Russ Feingold, John McCain also introduced legislation to do that, which would basically just allow the president to withdraw earmarks on the bills, so just a limited line item veto. But that's, I don't think, really got anywhere either. So, no line item veto. Maybe it's a thing worth exploring. Basically, the Supreme Court, constitutional scholar type folks, think that basically it overrides the power of Congress too much in terms of presenting budgets. So it makes the executive too powerful, which I'm sympathetic to that argument, but also would be nice occasionally when we get these ridiculous bills out of Congress. All right, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about landlords. I put up something in the title for my online shows about landlords, about rents. There's a big thing going on about rent up in the Rochester area. There's what's called an eviction defense going on. So the issue has come up a bit. There was, an eviction moratorium of sorts in New York State, including one at the federal level too, an eviction moratorium that the CDC unilaterally did, thanks to the tacit approval of Comrade Trump. Makes it difficult for landlords at all levels to be able to evict tenants. Now, no one likes the idea of kicking someone out, right? Like, it doesn't seem like a nice thing to do. And, a lot of times when you see these eviction defenses, it's, a family in poverty, and you don't want to see people get kicked out. Now, at the same time, I think eviction is actually really important because, well, a couple of different reasons, right? You need to have the ability, if you are a landlord, maybe you only own one or two properties, and I'm not. I own my own house. I don't own anything else. You only own one or two properties. Chances are that you are relying on the revenue from rent to be able to pay your property taxes, your mortgage, and maintenance costs of these properties. And right now, New York State and many local governments too require a lot of landlords. It's a lot of maintenance. They are responsible for most costs associated with damage to the property caused by tenants. And it's very, very difficult to kick someone out of your property, even if they're causing you a lot of trouble. Now we live in a day and age the year of COVID, where a lot of people are having trouble making their rent because of COVID, right? It becomes difficult to make the rent because you've lost your job. The government may have declared your job illegal, essentially. You are not allowed to legally operate your business. And so now the government has made it difficult for you to earn your wage, made it difficult for you to pay your rent. What do? Well, the government just declares a moratorium on eviction. You can't be evicted. Cool, great. So what happens to that landlord, especially one who only owns a few properties, and they're dependent on this money to be able to continue maintaining the property, to pay their taxes? And if they don't do that, the banks will come after them, and the local governments will come after them. What then? How are they able to maintain this? Unless you were a really big holding company that owns dozens or even hundreds of properties, and a handful of people not paying their rent isn't going to sink you. If you're a small landlord and you only have a handful of renters, one or two not paying can be a problem. And on top of that, with the eviction moratorium, it was difficult. Not everyone who's not paying is doing so just because of COVID. Some people are not paying because they're irresponsible, because they're jerks. Sometimes kicking people out because they are destroying your property or putting other tenants in danger is a serious and legitimate reason for kicking someone out. Really, I think eviction, it's not like it's a good thing, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes you get people who are jerks, who I wouldn't want on my property, who are disrupting the life of those around you. Yeah, you need to be able to kick those people out. And you got these far left folks who are saying, well, housing is a human right. My take on rights is that you don't have any right that requires the labor and wealth of others. And housing is one of those instances that requires the labor and wealth of others. Either yourself, to provide it for yourself, or the landlord, or whoever, someone paying for it. The government could be. But it requires the labor and wealth of others to create housing for people to be able to live in. And it's not to say we shouldn't provide housing for people who need it in some circumstances, people who are severely disabled. Fine, okay. I can agree to that. But for people who are able-bodied, what right do they have to housing that is paid for by other people? And why should a landlord have to pay for a tenant to live in their housing? Because that's exactly what's happening. They're paying the rent, or they're paying the taxes and the mortgage and all this stuff. Why should the landlord have to cover that for someone who's deadbeat? And that's what it is in some cases. Not in every case. And I'll qualify the heck out of this by saying, yes, some landlords are jerks. Some tenants are really great and just in a bad situation. And that's how it is. And I'm sympathetic to helping those folks out. I really am. There should be easy, simple vouchers to help people out who are, because of no circumstances of their own, or no actions of their own, are in a bad situation. Again, a permanent long-term disability. Some of whom, might be because they've served their country too. Fine, I'm open to that. But for people who are just destructive, who are, and I've had neighbors like this, just completely went nuts, destroyed the property, and harassed us, were mean to us, and were doing illegal activities in our apartment. Yeah, someone like that, they're very hard to kick out right now. So, because of all this, and I'm setting up all the background for everything I'm going to talk about in the next segment. Because of all this, there is an impetus to renew the eviction moratorium in New York State. So there is this bill coming out. It's almost certainly going to be passed by the New York State Senate and the Assembly. And when we come back, I want to talk about the parts of that are good, the parts of that are maybe not so good, and what we should do in these emergency situations to make sure that people do have housing. All right, so thanks again for listening to A Free Solution. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax. We would like to thank our Lord for protecting us from evil. Psalm 91 states, "He is my refuge and my fortress, for he will rescue us from every trap and protect us from deadly disease."
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
In John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And one way we can achieve that is by being debt-free. So let us help you today. Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS tax debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back, everyone, to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for being here with us. And again, you want to participate in the conversation, 585-346-3000. And, you know, we were talking about President Trump stuff and bill stuff and all the omnibus spending stuff at the beginning of the hour, but we're talking about landlord stuff now. We're talking about renter stuff now. Is housing a human right? Again, no. I think you have fundamental rights to something that doesn't require anything of anybody. Your fundamental liberties. Right to speech. Right to bear arms. Doesn't necessarily require something of any. Negative rights that are restrictions on government. But you don't have the positive right to have something provided to you. How can you force that in nature? Again, I think rights are something that no one can restrict you from doing. Now, you shouldn't be... I think you have a right to housing in the sense that if you have a fair deal worked out voluntarily with a property owner person, you have a right to not have that taken away, not have that restricted by the government. Or if you have property, you have a house of your own, you have due process, you can't have that housing taken away from you. That's how I think that's a human right. But are we, as a society or as individuals providing housing, are we obligated to provide that for another? No. I don't think so. And the moment you allow that, it opens up a lot of other dangerous avenues as well. So I want to talk about what New York State is doing right now. And so there's a bill, there's an Assembly and a Senate version. I think they're essentially the same thing. It's called the Emergency Eviction and Foreclosure Prevention Act, the COVID-19 Emergency Eviction and Foreclosure Prevention Act. It's S9114 or A 11181. If y'all want to look up the actual bill numbers, I tweeted it out earlier at Kevin Wilson Rock. I just tweeted out some reporter who was, I think, tweeted out like a press release of it. And some of this, it's not the worst. It could be worse. So there's one part of it says it prevents evictions. So basically, if you're able to prove that you have financial hardship related to COVID-19, you can get a moratorium on eviction. Like there's a restriction on a landlord kicking you out of the house. And especially if someone in your household is at increased risk of COVID-19, so you don't have to move. And so basically you have to have a form to declare financial hardship because of lost income, health risk, childcare, family, something related to COVID-19. So more bureaucracy, but you have to give a reason, basically. Then you return it to a landlord, and then if you are in the middle of eviction, or you could be getting evicted, it prevents you from being evicted until May 2021. So limited time, which is good. I think any emergency measures ever should always be limited, that there should be a sunset date to what this is. And if it were just this, I'd be concerned because, again, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't really matter the reasons if you are a small-time landlord and you only have a few properties, then, you've got bills to pay too. A lot of people are, relying on this for income or doing it as a full-time job. It's not a huge money-making venture for them. It's just the ability to make a living. And I think there is a legitimate way to make a living, to maintain properties and, to make sure you're complying with all the stuff that governments at various levels require of you to provide housing. And without that service, it would be much more difficult to provide housing. I think in many ways, it's zoning too, but in many ways, the huge regulatory burdens on landlords are reasons for rising housing costs because it just costs more to comply with everything. Anyway, that might be a rant for another day. But let's keep going. I want to make sure I get y'all all the information on this. Again, look at my Twitter for exactly what I'm reading from. Let's see. It protects against foreclosures and tax lien sales for residential property owners. And so this is the next part. This is the part that I think, well, okay, so at least it does that. If you are a residential property owner that owns 10 or fewer dwelling units, so 10 units, including the primary residence, then you have some protection. You can, again, file a standardized hardship declaration form with your mortgage lender, local assessor, court. So if you're not paying your taxes, you're not paying your mortgage, you can say, look, my tenants ain't paying me because of the COVID thing that New York State passed. So therefore, you can't foreclose on me or take my property, right? Either the government or the bank. Okay, so that kind of picks out the next step of the equation. This is what I was worried would happen. The far left are like, well, forget about the landlords. Who cares if they suffer? No, like what this would end up doing if you just, said you can't evict anyone for any reason whatsoever. These small landlords would close, and it would just concentrate more power in the massive corporations that own tons of property. Although the threshold for this is pretty limited. It says landlords with more than 10 units are excluded from these protections. And imagine, I don't know if they're doing anything different for New York, like for the city, because there's some buildings that, someone might own a building and live there. They're more than 10 units. Same situation though. It's down there that's not all that big of a property. And again, this is probably their full-time job. Related to that, landlords are protected against negative credit reporting and discrimination in extending credit. Basically, again, if your tenants are using this program and because of that it has made you fall behind on foreclosure or on your mortgage, on your taxes, on all that stuff, you can't be held liable for it. So that's what that seems to do. And the legislation limits these protections only to single-home residences, co-ops, owner-occupied multifamily, primary residences with 1 to 9 rental units. So it looks like you got to live there. So again, it only provides a little bit of protection, like a little bit, and it limits it so much on the other side of this that a lot of businesses, again, landlords are a type of business. A lot of property management businesses are going to have trouble with this for the property management businesses that own property and not just manage them. It's going to make things really difficult. But it does provide some protection. And, I was reading more about this bill in other parts too. You can still evict someone for other reasons too. Basically, if someone is still doing something illegal on their property, you could still, take some action against them. That makes sense. Again, if someone's cooking meth on your property or something, and you're like, hey man, you can't cook meth here or I'm going to kick you out, I feel like you should be able to kick them out. Again, it's your property. The moment that it is no longer a voluntary agreement, that you're no longer in a mutually beneficial relationship, and I think that a renter-landlord relationship, when it's working out well, should be mutually beneficial, then yeah, you should be able to end that relationship. Either side. I think that there should be great protections for renters who want to get out of an agreement too. Sometimes it's tough with some of the lease agreements that you sign. I've seen some I'm like, oh man, I don't really like that, and I have to pick a trade-off for that, but still. So I'm trying to think of what the longer-term implications of this are going to be, because I think there are going to be longer-term implications, because again, if all these landlords suddenly aren't paying, they're not paying their mortgage, not paying their taxes because of a rule that New York State did, how does that affect local governments? How does that affect banks? If you aren't a huge, massive bank who's financing these mortgages for these companies, the system that made sense, then what happens when many landlords stop paying because New York State has told them they don't have to pay if their tenants aren't paying? So we've just shifted the burden from renter to landlord, now up to banks. Now, I don't expect most people to feel too sorry for the banks. A lot of banks can take the hit. That's the risk that you take, I suppose. And a lot of banks are encouraged to give these low-interest loans to kind of keep the economy going. So we've just pushed the bubble along just a little bit further. And every time we have these government interventions, again, I think this is well-meaning, and they tried to think of the small business owners in this case. But every time we have these interventions, it makes the possibility of a larger collapse more likely. We end up putting ourselves in a situation where we've just blown up the bubble a little bit more. The government interventions prevent the market from acting and correcting when there is malinvestment. I'll try not to get too economic on you, but make sure you read some of that stuff. Read some of your Hayek, some of the other stuff. All right, thanks again for joining us on A Free Solution. We'll be back. Well, Larry will be on here tomorrow, and I'll be back on Wednesday. Thanks again.